So today I'm going to be talking about my interview with Shane Lee about integrated technology in the classroom. I asked him a few questions and I'm going to review his responses as well as a lesson plan that he shared with me, and I'm going to analyze it. The first question I asked him was, do you use technology in the classroom? And if so, how frequently? Sean teaches English, as well as having taught computing and IT skills when he was in the UK, but he's been focusing more on English his past 2 years in Madrid. So he told me that given this and the type of schools that he works in, which all have a lot of good technological resources, that he uses it in the classroom daily. The next question I asked, of course, was how does he use it, and if he could give me some examples. Some examples that he gave were that he has his students do a lot of internet research, as well as creating presentations, and when he was doing computing and IT skills, programming to solve problems. Those are just a few. The next question I asked was the role of technology in his classrooms. It seems to take a lot of, seems to have a huge role in his classrooms because he uses it for a lot of different things, to improve logic skills, creating videos and podcasts, creating video games, creating animations and websites. So these are how he uses it, and the role would be, I think, enhancing the learning experience by teaching, but also having the students do. So there's a more interactive role within the classroom where students get to create new things that are their own, which is a skill when used with technology that will definitely help them in the future. The next thing I asked was the most useful technological tools in the classroom or for planning usage. He interpreted this question as in the classroom. And what he told me was for him the most useful thing was Google Classrooms, because through that he is able to assign work, have students hand in what he's assigned them, and also that he can grade them and make notes. So it's really an all-inclusive type of thing, and he finds it quite useful. Next, I asked him to tell me 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages of technology in the classroom. What he said was some of the advantages were that using technology in the classroom will help prepare students for the future, because they will need it in any future job that they have. So it is quite a valuable skill to have. The second thing he said was kids really enjoy using it, and I've personally seen this because kids get quite excited when they get to use their iPad in the class. And the third thing he said was they can find the answer, the students, to almost any question online at the click of a button. So it's quite useful for research, for example. Some of the disadvantages he said would be that it can be a distraction for kids. For example, kids could surf the net or be on YouTube instead of doing what they're supposed to be doing if they are not monitored. Secondly, children could possibly become too reliant on technology and not think for themselves and just type it into Google, for example, to get their answer instead of thinking. And thirdly, they might try to use it for cheating purposes if, again, not properly monitored. Moving on, I asked him a question that I also struggle with, which is how does he feel about students having iPads and tablets instead of textbooks? My students are kind of split on this. The majority, I think, prefer iPads and tablets, but some of them still prefer the old-fashioned textbooks. Sean, since he has a background in computing and IT, he is quite excited by the idea of having iPads in the classroom and quite likes it because he thinks it's more advantageous for him and the students, I believe. And the last thing that we talked about was a lesson plan, something that he used that heavily relied on integrating technology within the classroom. The example that he gave me was his usage of a website, and I think it's also an application maybe, called Kahoot. The plan that he set out for me was for a 55-minute high school class. He said normally the first 10 minutes he spends settling the children down and taking attendance. Then he has the children go onto the Kahoot website and type in the code that he's given them. And they can create any name that they would like to be identified with during the activity. That takes another 5 minutes or so. And then the actual activity takes about 35 minutes. And then the last 5 or 10 minutes of class, he spends reminding the students about any project deadlines, homework, or some last minute details about the exam. To break down the activity and what he does, this website, what you do is you have a question and 4 options. And you have a certain amount of time, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, to look at the question before you're required to respond. The person that gets the point, gets the highest score, is the person that responds the quickest with the correct answer. And it's cumulative, so the person that has done it the fastest overall with all of the questions at the end is the winner. The good thing about this activity is that it could be played individually as well as in groups. So that is the advantage, and then in the end you have the winner. To break down and analyze this, I would say the advantages of this activity is firsthand I've seen the students get quite engaged in it, and it follows with the ISTA standards for educators because educators design authentic learner-driven activities and environments that recognize and accommodate learner variability. So this is a visual activity because it's projected on the board. There is a time limit, but if you notice that you have students that work slower, you can always pair them up. So this Kahoot is very adaptable to what you need it to be for you. As well as you are the one creating the question, so you can make this about anything you would like to review, whether that be grammar, history, anything you need to revise, you can basically do with Kahoot, as long as you can break it up into 4 different options. And you can choose the time that they have for this based on the amount of questions that you give them. So you can make this activity longer or shorter. The other way it follows with the ISTE standards for educators is analyst. With this activity, maybe you can't see the students' names because they come up with whatever name they would like, which is good because it gives them a sense of anonymity. But you as the teacher can see around how many students have caught on to the ideas that you've been trying to get them to get in class and what you need to revise, because you see the percentage of people that have gotten the answer correct. And lastly, I would say this activity is very effective and appropriate because I've seen it work in lots of different environments and lots of different classes with different subjects. I've seen it work with 7th graders and 12th graders because students like the fast pace ness that happens with this, as well as it makes reviewing fun instead of tedious. in my experience. So this is why I would highly recommend this plan to any teacher that is looking for something, a good way to review. And that's it.